Tense. Tense. Good afternoon, everyone. And fun.
We are raising our guidance.
Great success, success, success. Great success, success, success means great profit, great profit, great profit. Mediocre success still means profit. Good afternoon, everyone. Still means profit. Still means. Good afternoon, everyone. Profit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wrestlenomics Radio. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting live and on demand from Buffalo, New York, where there's some accumulation of snow on the ground as I look out the window now. It is December 19th, 2021, and today on the program, we will discuss some interesting filings from WWE. I think they are SEC filings. We will discuss a Fox News article about AEW ratings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. We will discuss how AEW is performing as a lead-in for the NHL and for other programs in its history. We will discuss the latest YouTube numbers. What did SmackDown do on Friday for a prelim rating? The history of DQ finishes and count-out finishes and no contest finishes. Cyber Agent, its subsidiary, CyberFight, had a financial report that came out recently. And then we will give our predictions. We will reflect perhaps on some predictions that we made 2 years ago about the professional wrestling business. But first, joining me from my immediate south, he is a ring announcer. He is a stand-up comedian. He is a Bitcoin investor. And he is, I think, hungover, Chris Gullo.
You know, it's the holiday party season, so you just got to keep trucking along.
How was your adventure at the ESW Christmas party? How late did it go?
I got home at 2 a.m, and we're recording this
2 a.m.
So, yes.
How much did you sleep?
Probably got a good 5 hours in.
Wow. And when we're done here, you're not like taking a nap.
No. Going to a Buffalo Bills game.
You're going to a Bills, the Falcons today? Is that who it is?
Carolina Panthers.
Panthers. His Falcons the next week.
Falcons is in a couple weeks.
Weeks. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. It's the Panthers today. Okay.
It's Panthers, Patriots, Falcons, Jets.
Okay. So the area, just you can just imagine which area you might be referring to there. Okay.
I bought some interesting gifts for the thing, and I got a Sting ornament from 1998.
Wow.
And a
That
Sid
sounds
Justice.
That sounds like
referee
a coveted
Sid Justice.
Referee Sid. What referee Sid Justice?
There's a Sid Justice WWE figure.
It's
a SummerSlam edition. Yes, a referee Sid Justice figure.
What?
He's in a ref shirt. Yeah.
Like what was the brand at the time? Are those the Hasbro figures?
No, that's it's the Elite. The Elite. This is a modern figure. This is a figure that was out a couple years ago.
Oh,
it's a
okay. This is
like Elite Collection or something. Yeah.
Okay. But a Sting ornament from
him and a referee.
Sting ornament from 1988.
1998.
Okay.
So I ordered it from Amazon, and apparently this guy just must have a warehouse full of these. It's in pristine. It's like brand new out of the box, but it's from 1998. It says 1999.
Okay. Wow. I thought you said you were going to say 1980. Like this was Clash 1 Sting.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this is Crow Sting. Anyway.
Yes.
All right. You can ask a question
right.
if you want. There's a super chat feature available here if you want. If you want to give a question or you just want your comment read on here on the air, go ahead and do a super chat. But we will begin with
Yeah.
dun
The
dun
Security
dun.
Exchange Commission.
Yes, the Securities and Exchanges Commission. So I was alerted to something that is in fact, anyone can go look right now. Go to corporate.w.com, and if you click the right numbers of the right combination of links, you will find sort of you could almost call it an Easter egg. You will find a filing that has been there. Oh, Gullo's leaving. He's got to go throw open the okay. Anyway,
I'm here.
okay. There is a filing. There was no email alert related to this. There's certainly no posting on the front of their corporate website, their investor relations website that I'm aware of. As people may know, there's been a number of lawsuits going on here related to it's a class action lawsuit by shareholders against WWE, basically alleging that shareholders during a certain period from roughly, it overlaps 2019 and 2020, where they allege that they were misled to believe that that there would be a MENA TV rights deal upcoming. That MENA is Middle East, North Africa. Basically, WWE was supposed to get a deal done with the Saudi government that owns the TV network MBC. Deal still to this day has never been done. But WWE missed its financial guidance, while prior to that saying that a deal was imminent. So this has been going on for quite a while. Shareholders are getting something out of it, depending on how many shares you owned. All of it's being paid for by WWE's insurance, so it's not like it's going to be this huge financial hit to WWE. But this coming, what is this, Wednesday, excuse me, December 22nd, there will be a hearing about this. And Chris Gullo, if you want to read, you don't have to read this entire slide, but you can read up to the Zoom link.
All right. So yeah. So the settlement hearing is scheduled for December 22nd, 2021 at 11 a.m. and the above caption actions will be conducted via Zoom. The court will allow the public to join via video conference through the Zoom, and the Zoom application there. So,
yeah.
So
11 a.m. Then the link is right here. It's on the filing. Apparently anybody could listen in. However, they also provide a phone number that you can listen in on. Please note, though, it says, persons granted remote access to proceedings are reminded of the general prohibition against photographing, recording, screenshots, streaming, no streaming it on your Twitch, and rebroadcasting in any form of court proceedings. But you might not be able to record it, but you can listen in. And I wonder who's going to be present. I have a guess, though. I think it might be one Jerry McDivitt we might see there. I think he has been representing WWE in this and really all of WWE's major legal actions. So, yeah, that's something nobody else has, I think, even noticed this, much less reported it. So, not exactly a wrestling media exclusive, but I don't know that anybody else has noticed this, much less reported it as far as people who are doing stuff publicly. So I'll be trying to check that out at 11 on Wednesday and see if there's anything riveting, but we'll see what happens.
all right, and so moving on here to a interesting article that came out this past week from Fox News, and we'll let you know about it So this is from the article. Billionaire NFL team owner Shad Khan had a rough first 15 days of December between his business with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the family venture into professional wrestling with All Elite Wrestling. AEW had a very successful summer with the acquisitions of CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole from WWE. AEW show Dynamite and Rampage each popped more than 1 million total viewers at its peaks. Dynamite peaked at 1.319 million viewers September 8th when Punk addressed fans for the first time since appearing at All Out. And Rampage peaked at 1.129 million on August 20th when Punk made his debut in Chicago. Since then, things cooled off with Rampage, attracting around 500,000 viewers. Dynamite attracted over 900,000 viewers Wednesday for the first time since mid-November, thanks to its Winter is Coming special. As things move into the next year, the Jaguars will be at square one with a high draft pick and in need of a new coach for the 2022 season.
So, are you aware of the news with Urban Meyer?
Yes, I am very aware. And
summarize for us.
First off, I just want to say, most football fans didn't think this was going to work out anyways. Did I think it was going to be a one-year thing? No, but most football fans, college coaches don't transition well. Some have, but most do not.
He's a very successful college coach, yeah.
Yeah, there was the scandal over the summer with the lap dance he got, and there was a lot of press on that. And then the Josh Lambo, who was a kicker for the Jaguars, came out and said that Urban Meyer kicked him in a practice. Like, so, and also too, just the record's abysmal. Yeah. And there's been other chatter or whatever, but he was let go. He was fired overnight this week. Like, I woke up to the news at like 6 a.m. and I think he was fired like 1 a.m.
Yeah, I read that Shad Khan waited to do it after an NFL owners meeting or something like that. The Jaguars are 2-11, two wins, 11 losses. So, okay. So, this is an article that came out on, I believe, Thursday. This comes out. It's interesting to bring these two issues together. That, I don't know. It's a tough week for the Khan family. The Jaguars head coach had to be fired, and then is AEW cooling off? But then on Friday night, we have some tweets from Tony Khan.
And Tony Khan said, "Thanks, Fox News. I appreciate that you highlighted AEW's ratings when AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays has beaten every single show on your network for 6 straight weeks. Here are a few more charts. Twitter only let me attach 4 weeks worth to my last tweet. See you tonight. #AEW Rampage."
Mm-hmm. This is one of 2 tweets, right, where he posted, the second tweet posted very similar text, I think, another set of Showbuzz charts, which was fun for me to see so many Showbuzz charts being put out there. We could look at this. This came out this week from Editorials 2024, listing I believe this is in prime time. What does it say at the top of the list below? Yeah. The numbers. So this is for 2021. This is just listing. Yeah, I think this is prime time. The average viewership in P2 Plus for the top networks, and number 1 in P2 Plus by a pretty wide margin is Fox News, with 2.36 million viewers. Number 2 is ESPN. Again, 2.36 is number 1 for Fox News. ESPN is next, with, we could round up here to 1.7. So about 2.4 to 1.7 is number 2. Followed by MSNBC beating out CNN with 1.5 for MSNBC and 1.1 million for CNN. Followed by HGTV, TNT with over 1 million. They're the last one on the list with over 1 million. Followed by TBS, the Hallmark Channel, AEW needs more Hallmark, more touching stories that could be featured on the Hallmark channel. TLC, History Channel, USA Network, Discovery Channel, INSP. I don't know what that is. Inspection? What is that? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna look that up here. while we're
Google
doing
that, please. Food Network and Investigation Discovery. That's in total viewership. The top 10 in
So
yeah.
I'm surprised this is up there. It's like a religious channel, but it
Really?
also shows timeless and original Western TV series. Like, I've never heard of this thing.
Interesting. So these are obviously all cable networks. So there's no broadcast being considered here. But in 18 to 49 though, number 1 is ESPN, number 2 is TNT, number 3 is TBS, number 4 USA Network. So we've got out of that top 4, 2 of those are airing wrestling twice a week. Number 5 is Fox News Channel. Number 6, Food Network, followed by Adult Swim, TLC, HGTV, and tying for 10th place, CNN and Discovery Channel. MSNBC doesn't make it to the top 10. When I do my comparisons about like this is what the trends of TV are overall, I often exclude news, especially in the year of 2020. News was exceptionally high while the rest of TV was down. But you can see how news performs well relative to other programming. But I don't know. Is 18 of Tony Khan's pointing out that AEW programming has beaten Fox News programming in 18 to 49. I wonder what demo Fox News is selling on most often. If you look at some of the ads, not that I'm watching Fox News all the time, but if you look at some of the ads that Fox News is probably airing, they're probably targeting P50 plus, and which they're doing, blowing away the field in P50 plus. So
I imagine there's life insurance commercials and pharmaceutical commercials and stuff like that.
Precious metals and things of that nature. Just if Tony Khan doesn't tweet about this, I don't know that anybody is aware of this article as much as they are. Hopefully he got some great traffic for the AEW Rampage hashtag and drove some interest into the Rampage program that evening. But it's taking a story that is tangentially related and putting it attached to AEW. And maybe making people think a little bit more about, what is going on with AEW's ratings? Is there, the executive summary could become more so, they've been cooling off. And they didn't do a good rating on Wednesday. I talked about this on the TV ratings talk, the Winter is Coming rating, and I talked about it on Friday with John Pollock and Wei Ting on the Post Wrestling News Update about the Winter is Coming rating, which did a 0.31 in the demo and did over 900,000 viewers total. But the demo is the lowest demo that Dynamite has done in its normal time slot since May of this year. Even when you consider the West Coast issue, because NHL is having to air live, that's affecting the ratings, yes. There's been about a 22% decline in viewership since Dynamite has started airing live on the West Coast. But even among these last 8 weeks or so, that 7 or 8 weeks that Dynamite has been airing live on the West Coast, this was still the lowest demo of those weeks. There wasn't exceptional competition. Competition, as best I can tell, was pretty middle of the road relative to what the competition has been in recent weeks against Dynamite from 8 to 10. So there is some truth to the ratings not being good. And it wasn't as if this was just some run-of-the-mill episode of Dynamite. This was the most hyped episode of Dynamite in some months. So there's that. We can talk about AEW as a lead-in. Now, the lead-in from 8 to 10, serving the NHL pregame and game that follows at 10 p.m. Eastern. And Sportico had an article about this week.
Yep.
Which
Yeah, and from that
excerpts
article here, and that was written by Anthony Krupe. Per Nielsen's live plus same day data, the AEW Dynamite installments preceding TNT's NHL coverage averaged 911,875 viewers, nearly 4 times the turnout of the late hockey telecast. Lead-ins, no matter how big, only pay off when the respective target audiences are simpatico. In this particular case, the Venn diagram of AEW enthusiasts and NHL fans looks like a toppled snowman. If accommodating AEW has hampered TNT's early NHL efforts, the worst of it will be over soon, as the wrestling program will move to its new home on TBS as of January 5th. Once the Dynamite block is out of the way, TNT will go forward with a weekly slate of NHL doubleheaders. Despite the scheduling snares, advertisers have snapped up a bulk of TNT's in-game spots, leaving Turner Sports Chief Revenue Officer John DeMont with a limited cachet of available NHL inventory. While the AEW workaround has put the freeze on TNT's initial hockey deliveries, media buyers say that Wednesday night ratings have been consistent with the guarantees the network offered its NHL advertisers.
Yes. So what are your takeaways from those excerpts of the Sportico article here?
So it seems like AEW Dynamite being a lead-in is hurting the NHL ratings. Is that what they're saying there?
But they're doing.
But
Go ahead.
I was going to say, but they're also doing great numbers. We look some very comparable numbers to what NHL does, if not beating it, and that's almost on most wrestling promotions on television. So,
and this article says that they're selling their ad inventory just fine. But I figured we could go and look. Wrestling programs have a history of not being great lead-ins for the programs that follow them, with some obvious exceptions. The Ultimate Fighter helped build UFC into becoming a lot more popular than it was before in roughly 2005, when it was the program that was on right after Raw on Spike TV, when Raw was on Spike TV. What else? Do you remember the Joe Schmo show?
Yes, I do.
I don't know what the ratings were for that, but that was something that I watched after Raw, because it had like this worked aspect to it. But anyway, Ms. and Mrs. has been doing quite well in its most recent season as the program on right after Raw, and Roads to the Top, as we'll look here in a moment, has done relatively well compared to other programs that have been on after Dynamite. So let's look at all the cable originals. All this data, by the way, coming from Showbuzz Daily via Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. So these are only originals. We're not going to look at movies that are on after Dynamite, simply because I don't have that data. But we do have quite a few original programs. It's hasn't been a regular thing, and really until recently, that Dynamite has been a lead-in for an original program. But there have been a handful of times before the NHL games started to appear on TNT. So this is sorted in chronological order first. That Dynamite has served as the lead-in for one championship MMA on what looks like 5 occasions here. On one occasion, it served as the lead-in for The Arena, which is some kind of special on the NBA, I gather. And then it served as a lead-in for Roads to the Top on various nights. And then it's been the lead-in for a number of NHL games. And what we see is one championship wrestling, and I think I have this grouped. What do I want to look at here? I guess let's look at this grouped. So I put these in groups that made sense. I grouped all the Roads to the Top episodes together. There've been a couple times. This has mostly been going on after Rampage now, since Rampage has been on TV. But there've been a couple of AEW countdown specials ahead of pay-per-views. And then we've got the NHL pre-games, we've got the NHL regular season actual game, and the one championship MMA. So 5 episodes of the MMA show, 8 NHL regular season games, along with 8 NHL pre-game shows, 2 AEW specials, and 5 Roads to the Top episodes. And in 18 to 49, we could call it the retention rate, or the P18 to 49 rating as a percentage of Dynamite's P18 to 49 rating. And if I sort this from greatest to least, the program that you could say held on to the viewership the most effectively was Roads to the Top. And that makes sense. It's a show about Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes, two personalities who are on the AEW program, those audiences are familiar with. So, and it's on later in the night, so it's not as if this is an 8 o'clock Dynamite that's serving a 9 o'clock show. It's a 8 to 10 show serving a 10 o'clock show. So the viewership is, if all other things are equal, is going to be lower at 10. But Roads to the Top has benefited the best from the lead-in, you could say. The AEW special, but did I say a number here? 45% is the average retention rate. 45%. The AEW special, the two AEW specials retain 36% of the demo. The pre-games on average across 8 pre-games for the NHL game has retained 30% of the demo. And the game itself, which is on even further into the night, of course, 22% of the demo. One Championship MMA, 27% of the demo. So, yeah, there's more context that we could get into here. With more time, I would like to look at how Raw has served as a lead-in for any USA Network programming. Maybe we'll look at that in the future. But it is evident from this breakdown that Dynamite has served as a better lead-in for Roads to the Top and for its own specials than it has for the NHL, which isn't really a surprise, right? It's just how nicely does the lead-in fit in with the program that comes before it, which is the wrestling program.
I think the biggest question is, why does this all matter, Brandon?
Oh, why does it matter? Great question. Great question, Chris Gullo. This is why you're here, to ask these insightful questions. One of the reasons why wrestling programs or any program is valuable, it's not just because of the viewership that it delivers. It's not just because of the ad revenue that it can help generate. It's also it's a question of in what ways does this program make the entire network even stronger? You know, if you can be a program, and that's why we've seen things like the Go Big Show with Cody Rhodes involved. And that's why we've seen Roads to the Top on the air in part. And that's why we've seen on Dynamite, Snoop Dogg show up and Rosario Dawson show up. People who are on the Go Big Show.
They did the Christmas Story thing last year too on TBS. The live reads from AEW. Yeah.
Excellent example. Things like that. The more you can sort of energize the entire network and generate interest across not just your own program that you want to do great ratings in, but you want to generate interest in the entire family of Turner programming. So the more you can do that, the better. So that's something that has a lot to do with how networks are going to value Dynamite or Raw on the USA Network or SmackDown on Fox. So how much can we sort of cross promote and drive interest to a variety of programs across our network? Now, is it in WWE's interest for stories like this to be out there? I wonder. Does it make it so that any competition? So one thing that friend of the show MJ has raised to me is that, and this is highly speculative, but what if AEW gets its TV deal done before WWE gets its TV deal done sometime around 2023, and AEW's deal most likely in terms of a average annual value is still going to be lower than either Raw or SmackDown, let's say. So what if AEW is valued still lower than WWE, and WWE because AEW has already been priced. Now that deal done, we have that AEW deal to look at when I'm a network negotiating with WWE, and actually, if it's even lower, wouldn't you want AEW to have a great deal? So I don't know. I've sort of talked myself out of this idea here, I guess. But it's interesting to see this. At least the Fox News article with the relationship between Fox. Obviously, Fox is a broadcaster for SmackDown. To have this story out there, it benefits WWE if WWE wants there to be a story about AEW ratings that is negative. That serves WWE's interests.
All right. Moving on to ratings. We don't have anything for Rampage, but we do have some fast affiliates here for SmackDown. Preliminary total viewership 2.213 million. Obviously, you got an assumption that it would be plus minus 5.7% for the final rating, which will be reported Monday, about 2.3 million that you're predicting, Brandon. And it could be the highest in September, but hard to say last week lately due to storm coverage in some markets. So, and this is, Brock Lesnar has been back for a couple weeks now, and does Brock Lesnar equal ratings?
He hasn't the last couple weeks. SmackDown has been doing its lowest demo ratings since the return to touring. But he did have a big angle with Roman Reigns turning on Paul Heyman. Yeah, but no Fast National for Rampage this week. Maybe that means that the Rampage rating was up. So we'll see what happens on Monday, though, when that final rating comes out. Monday afternoon. We'll get that from Nielsen.
And then Rampage is on Christmas night this week. I saw that with the scheduling, yeah.
Yes.
It's not on Friday, yeah.
Yes. Which is probably better. I don't know. Is it still on at 10, actually? Do you know? Is it on 10 on Saturday, or is it on earlier?
I think it's on a different time, yeah. Because I did see some promotion for that from AEW as far as matches.
But SmackDown has already been taped for Friday. So SmackDown is running on Christmas Eve. And both of those shows are probably running on New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
So some really low ratings probably coming this week for Rampage and SmackDown, and the week after. Is there an NFL game on Tuesday? Have I heard this correctly?
Yes, you have heard that correctly. There's 2 games on Tuesday, and now 2 games on Monday because of COVID outbreaks. So they had to do a lot of rescheduling around. By the way, Saturday night at 9:00, and they're advertising Hook's next match. So
9:00.
We're hoping Hook brings them in on Christmas. So
excellent. 9:00 though.
9:00, yes.
Okay. All-time low rating on Tuesday night for NXT. We'll see. Having to go against the NFL games are at different times, though. Correct?
Yes, they're. I didn't do those times because I think on Monday there's a 5:00, and then your normal Monday Night Football game. But let's see.
There's a 5 p.m. Eastern Monday game.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's see the schedule here. Yeah, so Seahawks and Rams is at 7:00 on Tuesday, and then also 2 games at the same time. And Eagles and Washington Football Team are at 7:00. But yeah, tomorrow Raiders Browns at 5:00, followed by your regular Bears Vikings Monday Night Football at 8:15.
Okay. So what's NXT going against? 1 game or 2 games?
Technically, so there's 2 games at the same time. I don't know if any cable networks are showing these games though.
Okay.
They would have been on your CBS and Fox Sunday affiliates. So I would imagine they're just CBS or Fox will be airing those in local markets.
Okay. So if NXT gets crushed, they have an excuse. NFL competition that they've never gone up against before. We'll see.
It's also college football bowl season too. There's almost a bowl game every night on television now too.
Okay. So, in lieu of being able to make like-to-like comparisons, and in lieu of quarter hours not being more neat in our ability to analyze them because they're compromised with commercials and overlapping segments within a 15-minute period, I do want to start, and we already have been, taking a regular look at these YouTube clips. Now, there's some people angry with me that we were comparing AEW to WWE. Anytime you mention WWE and AEW in the same sentence, you will cause some issue with someone. But to be clear, as we look at this list, this is the top 20 videos, I believe, of the last 7 days after 16 hours. I'm gonna move this to 24 hours soon, once I get the data in the right position. But to be clear, even though AEW lists, we've got out of 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've got 5 out of 20 are AEW videos in this listing. To be clear, WWE blows away AEW when it comes to views total in any given period of time. They have a massive library of YouTube videos that has been online since 2005 or something, roughly since YouTube has existed. A massive collection of YouTube clips from their massive library overall. So WWE is way ahead of AEW in views. However, we're just looking at the most recent videos after 16 hours. And I think I can even show this right here. Oh, no, I cannot that. I'm going to run a YouTube chart live on the air right now for those watching on YouTube. Are you ready for this, Chris Gullo? This is huge.
I'm a 9:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time exclusive here on YouTube. No one else is bringing this content this early.
So what we're looking at on the screen, this is Sublime Text. This is just a program that you use to write Python code. And what it's going to do is, I've been collecting data every hour, on the hour, with a different script. And it's been going directly to the YouTube pages, looking at the videos and counting the views. Anyway, nobody cares about that. We're going to build this code right now, and it's going to create a chart that's going to count like 190 videos, and it's going to show you a line graph of the trend of that video. So here it is. Here it is. It just generated it right now. This is huge. This took me like hours to make. So what you can see here, this is only the 72 hours, but suffice to say it's flat going forward for the entire 7-day period that I'm tracking this data. But I wanted to track that big of a frame of time to be sure. But this is within 72 hours is the frame that we're looking at here. And what you see is the bulk of the views, the vast majority of the views for these videos that are new, that are just posted. That viewing happens, the vast majority of it, within the first 24 hours. So for punditry reasons, for analyzing the business reasons, I think it's going to be safe to just look at the first 24 hours and say, okay, after, this video has lived for 24 hours, I essentially figure out its birth date because I'm looking at this every hour. So for 24 hours after the first recognition of a video, we can say, okay, after 24 hours, that's how many views you had. We're looking at 16 here. But I will move this to 24 soon. But anyway, the most viewed video of the week is Brock Lesnar laying waste to Roman Reigns and the Usos. And if you look at the top 30, or the top 25 of the last 30 days, the top 3, each with over 1 million views, is Brock Lesnar lays waste, Brock Lesnar attacks, Brock Lesnar destroys. So if you want that SEO, just call your video Brock Lesnar smashes, destroys, demolishes. Just have Brock Lesnar doing violence against someone or something. Those seem to do quite well.
Someone at WWE social media has a thesaurus. What word do we use this week? How about exterminates?
I think when we looked at this with Mookie a few years ago, what we noticed was, there was some of the most popular videos on YouTube's or on W's YouTube are like Braun Strowman destroys a car and things like that. People smashing and destroying things, big muscly men crushing and doing demolition. People love that on YouTube.
It's the human version of monster trucks. People love that stuff.
So the Lesnar clip from this past Friday SmackDown number 1, with 1.6 million views. Roman Reigns fires Paul Heyman, just under 1 million after 16 hours, so it's probably over 1 million now. Maurice slaps The Miz from Raw is number 3. The instant classic Heyman versus Danielson was a defining moment for AEW is number 4. The top 10 moments of Raw, number 5. Big E battles Bobby Lashley with title opportunity on the line. I love title opportunities. And we can go on from there. Drew McIntyre recovers his stolen sword. Angela, that was on SmackDown, who walked out with the magnificent Dynamite Diamond ring, which was actually from last week's Dynamite, right? But it was first posted on Thursday. No, that is from Winter's Coming. Okay. Maybe that's the MJF and Dante Martin match then? I don't know. Anyway, there's that. You have thoughts of that?
I mean, and none of this really surprises me. You know, WWE's social media, YouTube presence, especially globally, we have to remember this is a global thing. We're not talking like American TV ratings.
Good point.
So, and AEW just doesn't have that global brand that WWE has. So, you're talking people that just and some of these people, we see it with the Saudi Arabia shows, what they request. People just know names. So somebody's like, oh, Brock Lesnar, and you know, somebody in the MENA region knows who Brock Lesnar is, and they see a Brock Lesnar YouTube video, they're probably clicking it.
Okay. So there's YouTube. And we could eventually look at this over bigger periods of time. Like we just looked at the 30 days. We could eventually look at this by month, well, by quarter, and then ultimately by year. The thing is, I can't really go back retrospectively before I started collecting this data, but it's something in 2022 we could hopefully look at. Moving on to DQ finishes.
Yeah, DQ finishes, and it's been all the talk as of late.
It has been. Do you love DQ finishes? Do you ever watch a wrestling show and be like, "Man, that was good, but I wish it had more DQ finishes"?
I honestly just expect television to have DQ finishes a lot. I think WWE has programmed it in my brain because the pay-per-views were the real winners. It happened.
Mm-hmm. So what I did is I went through the cage match results and I did a search in the text of the results for any variation of DQ, disqualification, count out, with and without a hyphen. 1 word and 2 words, count out. No contest, with and without a hyphen. Probably doesn't catch 100%, but probably pretty close. And what we find is AEW, so far in its history, 0.2% of their matches have been DQ'd, count out, or no contest. This year, so far, WWE, it's 7% have been, let's call them non-finishes. WWE has done 7% of its matches non-finishes. AAA beats WWE here with 8% of its matches being non-finishes. New Japan is at 2%. CMLL is at 6%. I did go all the way back to, I think I went even further back than this, but I did go back to at least 1990, and you can see the glory era for DQ finishes was in fact the late 90s for WWE, when they did their hottest period of business. 99, 2000, 17% of their matches ended without a pinfall or submission. 1990, that's 98, 17%. 99, 15%. 2000, 14%. So what is that? More than 1 out of 6 maybe not that quite that much. A sixth is 18%, right? 18.5 or something like that, or is that 12.5? Anyway, 15%, roughly 15% of the Attitude Era was DQ or count out finishes. No cage match does not tell me about distraction finishes, does not tell me about cheap roll up finishes. Sorry. But yeah.
I expected the WCW number to be higher.
Right, WCW's in here too. WCW
the dusty
peaked.
finish,
Yeah, that's more about egregious, occasions. But WCW peaks in 1998 with 14%. But the leader of this multi-decade span of time among the promotions that we're looking at here is AAA in 1998 with 28%, more than a quarter. And they went from 98 to 2001, where about a quarter of their matches had a DQ or a count out. I don't know if 2 out of 3 falls would be counted in here. If you had just one fall that was a DQ, maybe that would have counted. But yeah, and the low point for any promotion we're looking at, by the way, this is an analysis of AEW, All Japan Pro Wrestling, CMLL, Dragon Gate / Toryumon, ECW, TNA / Impact Wrestling, AAA, New Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah, WCW, Stardom, and WWE. And the low point with 0% for the entire years of 1993, 1994, 1995, 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999. No DQ finishes, no countouts, no contests. For the greatest era of any promotion ever, really. All Japan in the 90s. What is your favorite All Japan in the 90s match, Chris Gullo?
I can't think of too many. I know you have talked about. I know you've talked about Masada and Kawada, right? Quite a bit.
Masada?
Do I have that right? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Or yeah, Masawa. Yeah. So
yes. But anyway, Giant Baba. Not to get too far away from current events here, but Giant Baba in the 80s. People who are watching on YouTube can see this enormous change here. In the 80s, All Japan Pro Wrestling was strewn with all sorts of DQ and countout finishes and no contests and things like that. It was, if you stack time limit draws on top of it, it gets up to 20%. 1 out of every 5 matches in 1980 and 1981 was either a time limit draw, a DQ, a count out, or a no contest. In 1989, though, for some reason, and many have pointed out, this coincides with the timing of UWF, Akira Maeda's UWF, shoot style wrestling coming into prominence. Even though the first UWF was 84, but the second run was in the late 80s. And it would be followed by, Rings and UWFI in the 90s. But it coincides with the second UWF, which was a hot period for Maeda in the late 80s, where they did very technical, sort of the precursor to MMA, really, even though the matches were worked. But they did all clean finishes, of course, and in a sports-like a fashion as possible. Meanwhile, All Japan Pro Wrestling went to all clean finishes while doing still I don't know if you want to call it more classic version of pro wrestling with normal pro wrestling moves and things like that. Yeah, in 89, and I looked deeper into this, you can pinpoint to a period from, I believe, roughly May 1989 to September 1989, where it goes from a pretty high rate to almost 0, and then from 90 onward, there's very, very, very few non-finishes. And then again, as I mentioned, there are in 93 through 98, there are, or even through 99, and Baba died in January 99, and the split came about a year later with Noah. But there are no DQ finishes that I could find in this query. I didn't manually look at every row, obviously, every match result. That would have been tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of match results. But there are some time limit draws. Memorably, there are some hour draws and things like that, and draws in the Champion Carnival. So that's somewhere between 1% and 3% in any given year are time limit draws. But 0. Now, If you look at New Japan's history over this time, New Japan nearly as strong, nearly zero throughout the 90s. They're at 1 or 2% throughout almost the entire decade of the 90s, and follows a very similar trend line to All Japan. Now you've got to think, knowing what I know about how pro wrestling works, at least here in the United States, their business must have just cratered during this time, right? Because they weren't able to protect their stars. That's why we do DQ finishes and count out finishes and other non-finishes, is to protect the stars and build them up for that big match that's coming later, right? So All Japan and New Japan nearly went out of business in the 90s, clearly, but they're still alive today by some miracle. Isn't that's a correct narrative of what happened, right?
Nope. Not at all.
Really? What happened then? How did they not go out of business? They didn't do any DQ finishes. They must have had a hard time. Why else would you do
a quality product?
Why else would you do DQ finish? Why are we doing DQ finishes then in the United States if it doesn't really support the economics?
Because it's an old American wrestling narrative that's never died.
Okay.
I mean, it goes back to the territories.
Okay.
This is one of those things you do, and no one really has an explanation really why you really should do it.
Yeah. The 90s, All Japan Pro Wrestling's hottest period ever. They won attendances in Japan. The records that we do have of attendances in Japan are very suspect, but I don't think there's any disputing that All Japan in the 90s was All Japan's hottest period ever. Coincided with the creation of new stars: Mitsuharu Misawa, Toshiaki Kawada, Kenta Kobashi, Kira Taue, Jun Akiyama. Got Steve Williams, Vader in there in the late 90s. Stan Hansen, not a new star, but Stan Hansen, part of that crew as well. New Japan had its hottest period ever, even hotter probably than the peak of Inoki in New Japan. Emergence of new stars: Kiji Muto, Masahiro Chono, Shinya Hashimoto. It's debatable whether New Japan was hotter, especially when you consider the global factor in the 2010s. But Tokyo Dome shows 3 times a year, other dome shows in other regions like Fukuoka and Sapporo, did all this with minimal, almost no DQ finishes, count-out finishes, no contest finishes. And this is clearly something that AEW it's not a coincidence that they've done essentially zero or very close to zero DQ, count out, no contest finishes in their history. It's something clearly that Tony Khan feels strongly about, is that that's not something that is conducive to a good product. But anyway, moving on.
Moving on to CyberFight financial.
You wanted to talk about CyberFights, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It is interesting to see really scope into what CyberFight is doing, because it is an interesting, thing that we have. Because now, what is it? Do they own DDT? Do they own Noah, or are they like an umbrella company, or what is the exact definition of them with Noah?
I was going to quiz you on that.
Okay.
So there's a company called Cyber Agent. Here's a really misleading and what do we call counterintuitive question I could ask you. What's the biggest company in pro wrestling?
I mean, it's not WWE, because they're in sports entertainment.
Well,
so, but I would say WWE if they recognize themselves as a wrestling company.
I could say that Cyber Agent, which is some kind of look up what Cyber Agent actually does. It's some sort of digital company. You just give me like the Wikipedia first sentence on Cyber Agent and what their company actually does. It's a company based in Japan, and a very, very small part of their business is now CyberFight, its subsidiary, which owns Pro Wrestling Noah, DDT, and the DDT sub promotions, which are Ganbare, I think, and Tokyo Joshi Pro. Cyber Agent is a bigger company. Again, pro wrestling is a very, very small piece of their company, but Cyber Agent is a bigger company than the WWE in terms of market capital. It's about $8.5 billion company when you convert the yen to USD. Go ahead. And WWE is
digital advertising.
Digital advertising. I thought that's what it was. Okay. So they're about an $8.5 billion market capital company. WWE is $3.5 billion, depending on what the stock price is. But Cyber Agent is a publicly traded company as well. Bushiroad is a publicly traded company. Bushiroad is a $500 million company, so it's much smaller than WWE. Cyber Agent generated about almost $6 billion, almost $6 billion in revenue. Made about $365 million in net income in its most recently completed fiscal year. So just give you an idea how big these companies are. CyberFight is one subsidiary of Cyber Agent, and they reported a 215 million yen loss, which if you convert that is $2.5 million. So they lost $2.5 million on the fiscal year ending September 2021, seeming to blame this somewhat on COVID. There's also, so there's a few tables that if people are looking on YouTube that look like this, that there's this table, there's another table that is just for DDT that also shows a loss, so that we know apparently that DDT itself, if you just isolate DDT, appears to have also lost money. So DDT is in the bucket along with Noah. So these companies not making money here, which makes sense. The Japanese business is not an overwhelmingly media revenue driven business like the US, the major US companies are. There are companies that are largely driven by live events, and their live events have been limited in capacity. So they're not as able to do good business.
All right. Anything else on that? Or do we want to move to the 2022 predictions?
We can do predictions now.
By the way, though, before we start the predictions, if you have any questions, we do have the super chat feature. You can enter any amount starting at $1 to ask us a question. So if you guys want to do that, it's right in the YouTube chat, the super chat feature. All right, so we'll start with these predictions here. You sent me, I believe yesterday, this, and I was kind of mulling it over. And number one here. Will NXT be on the USA Network at the end of 2022? Do you want to go first?
Yes. Yeah, so I gave you a list. I've added a couple questions since I gave you this list. But I gave you this list and asked you to come up with your own answers separately in your own voting booth, and then we would reveal them now. Will NXT be on the USA Network in 2022? Well, at the end of 2022. Yes. I think it's more questionable after that. They probably made, I'm gonna guess they made a 2-year deal, which would run from September 2021 through September 2023. Given that the relationship between WWE and NBC Universal is so deep, unless they just want to make some strategic choice to put, I mean, it would be very easy to move NXT to Peacock and then spin it as a lateral or upward movement, because, you know, wow, it's such a big deal to be on Peacock, and it's so important to be on Peacock, and that's where the future is. And we're targeting a younger audience, even though we're not capturing them. But anyway, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with you, yes, but I think Peacock, moving to Peacock is definitely something that's going to happen in the future. I don't think it happens next year, but we're going to keep an eye on television as a whole. When does the buck really stop with standard cable television, where people are just, I'm done, Never. And then people are just moving quality programming networks are moving quality programming over to streaming services.
P50 Plus is never going to cancel cable. You could
that
charge
is true,
them,
but they're not going to live forever, Brandon.
No, but it's a long time.
Yeah.
Like our parents and grandparents, you could and Lord knows cable companies have a terrible perception with their customers. Everybody hates their cable company. But they could continue to raise these economics, continue to raise the price of to the customer to subscribe to cable for a long time. And I just think older people are not, it's going to take so much discomfort to force somebody over the age of 50 to pick up the Roku remote, to pick up the Apple TV remote and figure out how to do all their normal TV routine. They will not tell you this, but they are willing to go through to pay a lot more money than they're paying now to continue to pick up their big clunky remote with the rubber buttons and press the buttons that manipulate their set-top box. And for that reason, there's going to be a declining, yes, but a continually profitable live TV business. And there will be maybe various options about how you can get access to that live TV through internet, one way or another. That's the big question that I feel a lot less confident saying anything about. But yeah, I don't think unless people over the age of 50 are going to be incentivized to cut the cord and figure out how to use devices that are connected to the internet. Not that like people over the age of 50 are too dumb to figure out how to do those things. It's just friction is a tremendously underrated. We're totally off of our predictions here, but friction is a tremendously underrated factor when it comes to media economics, I think.
All right. We'll move on to question number 2. Will Ring of Honor run an event in 2022? I'll start with this one. I don't think so.
Really?
And here's the thing. Even though the social media is acting like nothing happened as the Ring of Honor social media, now that Sinclair doesn't have to put a lot of focus on it and they got so much more things going on, I think it's going to be one of those things like, oh, I know we're going to reboot in April, but we're coming back in June, and then it's going to fade away in obscurity.
I guess it depends on what Sinclair really wants for content. I will say yes. Does Sinclair feel like it's worth it to do something very cheaply to produce some sort of weekly content? What are they going to be playing in the meantime? Sort of replay
best
episodes?
of. I mean, there is a huge tape library, so.
So yeah. I mean, do they want new content? Because you can get it done more cheaply than they were doing it. And I think there's still money to be made in these occasional Fight TV, or they're through traditional operators too. These pay-per-views, but I think they will at least run one show. I don't know that there's going to be a Ring of Honor ongoing promotion, but I bet there'll be a Ring of Honor show in 2022 that may or may not resemble anything like what Ring of Honor has looked like over the last few years.
All right. Number 3, and this is one that wasn't on your original list, but I'm excited for this one. Will a wrestler currently in NXT 2.0 be in a show closing match for a main roster pay-per-view in 2022? I'll let you start this one. We'll kind of ping pong.
So you're assuming that I've actually thought about these questions and not just written them. I will say towards the end of the year, yes. Who would it be though? Braun Breaker, I guess. They clearly, and here's a little fact, and it may sound like nothing, but I think it is something. So in Sling, and I imagine this is being replicated on different platforms, not just Sling, but in Sling, there are logos. There's sort of like images for each program, and like the Dynamite one is like Cody Rhodes putting Dustin in a abdominal stretch in their Double or Nothing match. The NXT image has, until this past week or so, been the Wolfenstein NXT logo. Now, though, it has changed. It is the Nickelodeon version of NXT with Braun Breaker featured very prominently in this image. And as much as WWE is challenged at long-term booking, little things like that. Who's in the image that they send out to carriers? Who's on the cover of the annual report for investors? I think says a lot about who they value as stars, or in this case, future stars. I mean, who knows? I mean, Braun Breaker could fizzle out, but clearly they see him as something big coming down the pipeline. Is he going to main event a pay-per-view at the end of the year? Is he going to get called up and developed quickly enough to be in the main event of a pay-per-view? Maybe. I will say yes, if nothing else, because Vince sort of has to validate his own decision here and give it a try, at least.
I'm going to say yes, because I think Braun Breaker or Von Wagner, and it might not be your traditional one, it might be some like elimination chamber or something like that, but I think both those guys are going to be in some type of main event program. One of those guys, if not both, main event program by the end of the year. So,
okay. Next.
Yes. Who, if anyone, will beat Adam Page for the AEW title? I will say MJF.
MJF in this year, in this upcoming year.
At the end of this year, yes.
Wow. It's either probably not Omega. They probably don't go backwards to Omega. They probably don't go backwards to Moxley or Jericho. But by the way, just to be tangential here, part of the reason why AEW's ratings might not be great is because there is no Omega, Moxley, Jericho on any of these shows lately. Anyway, it's sort of like the point that I bring up about why is WWE's popularity declined over the last few years? Is it this or that, or is this the social media, the smart fans? No. It's stars. Anyway, what was the question? Oh, who's going to win the title in 2022 for an AEW? Danielson? Probably not. Probably Adam Page has got to get a win over Danielson now, even though Danielson would maybe make a great champion at this point. Maybe Punk, and then somebody takes it off of Punk. MJF is a good guess, though. I don't know. I will go with CM Punk.
All right. Who, if anyone, will beat Roman Reigns for the WWE Universal title? I'll let you begin.
It's Lesnar or no one. That's the answer.
Here's the funny. I asked you that question, and the YouTube feed is a couple of minutes behind. The picture of John Cena showed up as soon as I asked you that question.
No, that's not happening. Big Mess John's got more important things to do in China. I'll say Lesnar.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think he has to lose it eventually. I guess Brock Lesnar would be the best guess. I can't think of anybody else. If Rock wanted to do at least be there for a month or two, maybe. But
yeah, I don't think Rock is committing to anything more than one match, though.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Will Wyndham Rotunda, the former Bray Wyatt, sign with AEW, Impact, WWE, or another company? I think we've been having a lot of chatter this last few months about, can there be a third wrestling company that has huge financial backing? And I think this year you're going to see somebody probably say, hey, we're starting a new wrestling company. Let's get on this TV rights train. And Wyndham Rotunda will be the guy. That's my prediction.
I hope it's Robert Rodriguez, like relaunching some Lucha Underground type approach. Then I would say WWE would be the likely. I mean, anything is possible, but WWE is
they're selling Fiend holiday merchandise.
Who WWE is?
Yes, they're marketing it still.
Yeah, I mean,
you were marketing.
You don't need to have somebody under contract to exploit their IP, man.
All right. And I feel like we went over this question a couple of years ago. Will New Japan get a weekly TV show on a network in over 30 million U.S. households?
No.
And we'll let you be.
No.
No. At this point, no. I think a couple years ago would have been to strike the iron while it's hot. I don't think it happens now.
Yeah, I put the threshold at 30 million households because that's roughly access. That would be about half, a little less than half of the U.S. households.
Is that now Vice? That's Vice is over a little over
About
30,
50,
right?
about 50 million.
50. Okay, yeah. All right. How many times in the same week will Dynamite have a larger 18 to 49 audience than Raw? So I think this is something I don't really see wrestling ratings moving a lot in 2022, but I think this will probably happen, let's say 3 times.
3 times. It's happened twice this year. I don't think it's going to happen in the remaining few weeks of the year. All right, we've got two occasions left for this to possibly happen. And their AEW is so hindered by at least the West Coast thing, if nothing else. That will end, though, on January 5th, and it'll be on TBS, and there'll be no more of that. It'll be prime time across the country. But in January, Raw is going to be not facing Monday Night Football anymore. When does Monday Night Football actually end, though? Does the week of January 5th, where January 3rd is a Monday, is there? I think there's still Monday Night Football into at least 1 week of January.
Yeah, on week 17, but there never is a Monday Night Football game on the last week of the year in the NFL regular season.
Okay, so January 3rd there is Monday Night Football.
Yes.
Okay, so it could happen then. Did it come close before Monday Night Football? I think it came close. I will say 5 times in 2022.
All right. Well, how many times in the same week will Dynamite have a larger P2 plus audience than Raw?
0.
I'll let you begin with this one.
0.
I concur. 0.
0.
All right. Question number 10 here. Prediction number 10. Who will buy WWE's next day VOD rights currently led by Hulu? And I'm going to go with the surprising candidate of Tubi TV. Been seeing a lot of advertising for Tubi, and I think Tubi TV needs programming. Tubi TV will be buying.
Who owns Tubi?
For WWE.
Who owns Tubi?
Fox owns Tubi TV.
Fox. Yeah, that's not happening. It does make sense. The Fox connection does make sense, though. Peacock and Amazon. I think it's got to be one of those two. And I think you want. I'll take a lower revenue deal with Amazon, just to scare the crap out of my TV partners. But does Amazon really want to play there? I don't know. I don't know if Amazon really wants to play in U.S. sports rights outside of the NFL. I will say Peacock.
All right. And now we'll get into some average viewership here. We're going to predict the average viewership P2 Plus in 1849 in 2022, and we'll start with WWE SmackDown, and we'll start with you, Brandon.
Okay, so for reference, let's do P1849 rating, okay, and total viewership obviously as a count of viewers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put on the screen here the numbers. Let's do this view. Okay, so now we can see all the numbers and all the year-over-year deltas. So as of right now, we're starting with SmackDown, right, because they have the largest viewership. They are averaging for SmackDown, and I think, does this exclude preemptions? We'll exclude any preemptions from our prediction here because those are too unpredictable. So I've got to exclude preemptions in these tables here real quick because we don't want to be considering. Oh dear, am I gonna have to like? Yeah, so we don't want to be including like FS1 numbers in here or anything like that. So I've got to add the preemption filter. So if we go and take out anything that says true, and I don't know if that Actually, I think I already had them excluded because I was excluding certain networks. Anyway, 2.126 million viewers is the average for SmackDown in 2022. I see no reason why it wouldn't fall year over year. It fell. This is down 5% from the year prior. In this year from last year, which last year in 2020 was a pandemic year, and they're down 5% from that. Pandemic circumstances were especially negative because there was no live crowd. They bounced back, coinciding with the return to touring. But I think they're due for roughly another 5% decline here, right? Maybe even worse than 5% because we'll be comparing 2022, which will be mostly touring. But let's go somewhere between 5 and 10. Let's say 7.5. So I'm gonna put the calculator on here so everybody can see this wonderful math. 2.26, and I will multiply it by what's 7%? 8. 9. I will say 93% of that. So I will say for SmackDown, 1.977 million viewers on average in 2022. And then I'm just going to do a similar number for the demo times 9.3. And that would be a 0.52. That's still pretty good. 0.52 rating for SmackDown. Your thoughts?
I was going to go 2 million even with a 0.48.
Okay.
So be my prediction there.
Okay. Next, Raw.
Next, Raw. Yes, Monday Night Raw. Now I'll start with my prediction. I am going to predict 1.6. I just think that Raw is going to be very flat most of the year with let's say a 0.42.
Okay. I will say the average in this year is 1.763. I will also give this a worse than 7% decline. I'll say it gets a 10% decline, so that would put it at 1.587 million viewers and a similar decline in the demo. Although the demo has dropped more precipitously in most years. So let's be a little bit more aggressive. Let's say 88% retention. So that would be a 0.45 in the demo. That feels a little high, but we'll go with that. Now, what's next? The third most viewed program.
Real quick, we did have a super chat question, which kind of leads into what we're going to talk about with AEW Dynamite predictions. But Louis Ducote, under 18 AEW ratings, will they try other demos? So I think it's kind of asking, like, do we have a lot of data for under 18 AEW, and is that a demo that they're going to focus on?
Probably not, because it's outside of the ad demo, but we can, I do have, because we get total viewership, because we get 18 to 49, and because we get P50 plus, I can, with some margin of error, tell you what the P217 numbers are with some margin of error. And that is, if you're looking on YouTube, that is right here. So for instance, with NXT, the margin of error is massive, right? It's somewhere between 5,000 and 16,000 for NXT. But if you're asking about Dynamite, somewhere between 29, this is the most recent week. So for Winter is Coming, somewhere between 29,000 and 41,000, which is decisively below Raw. We can't calculate this for SmackDown because we don't get a P50 plus for SmackDown because it's on broadcast. But Dynamite is decisively lower than Raw in this category, right? We got 29 to 41, somewhere in that range for Dynamite. We've got 57 to 69 for Raw. Again, 29 to 41 for Dynamite, 57 to 69 for Raw. The medians there are 35,000 for Dynamite, 63,000 for Raw. Rampage, the median there is 20,000. Again, with some sizable margins of error here. But it gives you an idea of like what is that as a percentage of the total audience. I mean, we're talking about Dynamite's just under 1 million viewers. If they did 35 divided by 948, that's 3.5% of their audience. Let's put the calculator on the screen there. 3.5% of their audience for Raw. That would be 4% of their audience. I think at this point, for one thing, it's not their target ad demo. You're not seeing commercials on Raw or Dynamite or Rampage or SmackDown or NXT that are targeted at kids, children. You see things that seem to me to be targeted at 18 and 49 or even P50 plus. So I don't think there's an ad market there for these programs for that. But I think WWE is capturing P2 to 17 through things like YouTube and social media, and to a lesser extent, I do think by percentage, by proportion, AEW is less popular with kids than WWE is. And we see that bared out in things like the Reddit census, where people who are younger or under the age of 18 have more favorable opinions. Even those smart fans on the Reddit Squared Circle have more favorable opinions of WWE than people in other age groups.
All right, so yeah, we were talking AEW Dynamite. What are your predictions for P2 and 18 to 49?
So Dynamite is up, but it's up because it's up in this year, but it's up because it's not going against NXT. If we look at, it's tough because we don't really have a great year-over-year idea of what this program does, because each year has pretty serious external factors to compare against. These months are compromised by the NHL factor. I will say this program will be down. So what are we looking at first? I'm over here in P50 plus. So what I'll do is find the P2 plus here. This is P2 plus, and they averaged in 2021 940,000 viewers. And I will predict 940. I will predict they maintain like 95% of that. So an 893,000 viewer average. People on Twitter will announce the death of the company, but that's what they will average in total viewership. Total viewership. Now in the demo, it's a 0.34. That is their average in this year. If I said they maintain a 0.34, and 0.34 as a viewer count is what? 0.34 times 1305. That's 443 or 444. If I multiply that by 2, that's 887. Yeah, I mean, okay, that adds up. Yeah, so 893,000 total, 0.34 in the demo.
I will go 900 and 0.35. I'll one up you a little bit on that.
You're so biased.
All right. The next is Rampage. I'll start. I'll probably go, I would say 450,000 for Rampage. And I would say it's probably going to, just looking at previous data, probably an average of a 0.17, 18 to 49.
I think Rampage, where it's at right now, my best guess is that is where it's going to live. So it's doing 500,000 viewers, unless its time slot changes, which is quite possible. But let's see here. We've got 500,000 viewers, 237,000 in the demo. And I will say that is roughly their average. Maybe it's down a little bit. So I'll say something like 485, half of that in the demo would be that, divided by 305. So what did I just say for the total? Total
for 485.
485 total, and a 0.19.
Okay.
That's a demo rating. That's too high. 0.18. What did you say?
All right. I said 0.17. So, but I said 450. I just that Friday night slot is just death. Now NXT. this will be the most interesting one, and NXT. We'll start with you, Brandon.
What's its average in the year? Let's see here. NXT on the USA Network, partly going against AEW during this year, 674,000 viewers total. It is averaged in the demo 8.16. It's doing lower than that now, though. I think it's going to average 525,000 viewers and a 0.13 in the demo.
Okay, I'm gonna say 550, and I think 113 is probably a good life for it. It's the old people's product, so
Just gonna copy me.
So-
Fine.
well, I was thinking 1-3 before you said it. So, all right, Impact Wrestling. I'll start. Maybe 97,000 with a 0.02.
80,000.02.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
This
So
is
yeah,
audio the
that
math
was
to
our
revisit.
predictions.
So are we all done here? I think we are.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
this table. We'll do this next. Maybe we'll start doing this next week and doing some really quick predictions about what the ratings will be in the week to come. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Press like if you would. Press share it with someone. Hit subscribe on YouTube if you are watching on YouTube. Here on YouTube on the Wrestlenomics YouTube channel every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and live around the country and around the world. There's live TV ratings talk every Thursday where we talk about the ratings and take any questions that you may have through the super chat. You can go to the Post Wrestling Discord and go to the Wrestlenomics channel and chat with me and others in the Post Wrestling Discord. Wrestlenomics Radio is distributed as part of the Post Wrestling family of podcasts.
Yeah.
You have your own slide now for this.
Yes, and you can all catch me. I have one other podcast, Rediscover the Indies. Next week, Wednesday, will be the release date for our episode on Ring of Honor CZW feud. So we're going to break into that. That's RTI Pod on Twitter. Really interesting to break into the kind of the business side of it, the politics side of it, and I think people kind of forget about this partnership.
People don't remember.
You could say it. They had.
People don't remember.
People don't remember.
Before we go, I do have a clip from 2 years ago to play. We're going to replay our own audio here, which is a little bit gratuitous. But this is from September 2019.
One more. This is the bear case for WWE. This is where Raw and SmackDown fall from prominence. Vince McMahon's effort to turn around the Wednesday Night War actually damages NXT, and AEW surpasses WWE in major metrics. So in this scenario,
This is at like
2
1.5
additional hours of
speed.
primetime WWE content contributes to the decline of Raw and SmackDown. That is the existence of NXT being on the USA Network contributes to the decline of Raw and SmackDown because there's more content out there for WWE viewers to try to watch. By the middle of next year, AEW consistently beats NXT for viewership. By the end of next year, in an effort to help NXT, because they're losing the battle, Vince McMahon takes greater control of the brand. But because Vince McMahon is Vince McMahon, he actually contributes to the decline of NXT. Viewership further declines for NXT. Attendance for NXT shows suffers.
Non-existent.
Demographics, AEW begins to beat Raw and SmackDown.
All right. Then one other quick clip here. I think this has something.
That NXT prediction.
I went through a number of cases, so it's a little bit of a blind squirrel finding a nut. But
We'll start to get to know what these brands are about and start to understand what they're about, and they get to create stars on the level of having these distribution platforms that are as big as the USA Network and TNT. Like, why would you continue to watch Raw or SmackDown other than out of habit? And how long does it take to do? I guess there are just older people, and I guess that's sort of what I was laying out in that scenario. What you're going to see, what I believe you're going to see, is the older audience sticks with Raw and SmackDown longer. The younger audience gets more and more depleted from Raw and SmackDown. The younger audience for NXT and AEW gain more ground. And by the way, that's the audience, the younger audience that advertisers care about more.
2 years ago.
Maybe within 2 years, and I could be wrong. We'll revisit this. We'll revisit this podcast in 2 years. I think we're going to see NXT maybe number 2, AEW number 1.
That was a little bit
I see
strong.
the biggest issue with NXT surpassing, and I can't really speak for AEW because they don't have they're one company, one show, but I can't see NXT surpassing Raw and SmackDown because once they start, Vince will just go, oh well, we got to take this guy and put him on Raw, we got to take this guy on SmackDown, we're on the network. Oh man, this Velveteen Dream, put him on Raw. Like
Velveteen Dream.
That's what I think's going to happen.
Right. Once
they start getting hot, they're going to get picked apart, and then just bring the new group of guys. And I think they're going to consistently. I think they'll do well, but I think he'll just keep moving guys over.
One more. This is the beer.
Okay. So Velveteen Dream didn't pan out, but some of those things are eerily similar to reality. Yeah. Okay. You can subscribe to Wrestlenomics on Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestlenomics, where you get my TV ratings reports that are written and published nearly every weekday. You get access to the giant Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet, as well as other content. You can follow us on Twitter, at Brandon Thurston, at Wrestlenomics, at Chris Gullo, at RTI Pod, and things of that nature. Anything else to add?
Just want to wish everybody a happy holiday, too.
Yes.
It's the holiday week, so.
Yes. Happy holidays to everybody. We will talk to you next time, though. We have at least one more program. One more program, right? Yes, we have one more program in 2021 to do. And we'll see you next week.